there are many reasons to do this program, and everybody has their own reasons depending on their situation. Going back to the feedback and the confidence that you get from having the feedback and knowing if you're on the right track, or just even knowing areas where you can improve, is so valuable. And the feedback is kind of evergreen too, in a sense that, like, I've gone back to a couple different workbook assignments where I knew you told me something that was really important and helpful, that I needed to hear that again for a project that I was working on at work.
So I am Andrea Wilson with Bridging the Gap, here today with Nina Brackett to talk about your experience with the Blueprint program. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am super happy to have you with me today. We want to talk about what you've done. I want to first verbally congratulate you as an ACBA
Thank you.
participant, but you have earned your status there, that certificate. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Long time coming, but you did it with very, very much with grace. Thank you. Thank you for participating. All right. So tell us a little bit about you. I want to know your title and the
Okay.
industry. Yeah.
Okay. My current title is Senior Business Analyst, and I work for a professional membership organization that serves in investment and finance professionals. And I've worked with the company that I'm with now for 14 years, and have worked in my entire career serving the membership in one way or another. Actually started out in the client services, kind of member services role, where I was working with um, individual members who had questions about how to, renew their membership or how to join. Also reviewing membership applications to determine if someone is eligible to join our organization. And then we also have a network of local organizations around the globe. And I got to work with a certain subset of those organizations as well. And that is really where I loved, in that role. That was like the third of that job that I loved the most. But at this organization, things change a lot, frequently. And so reorganizations happened, and I kind of got to the point with the membership services role where there wasn't a lot of growth opportunity left. And so I was trying to think about what transferable skills can I learn? What path do I want to go down? There isn't a whole lot of places I can take my knowledge of membership at this one organization and have that be uh, useful to other employers. So I was really a point where I really had to do some evaluation of what my career goals were, where I really wanted to go. And at the time, I was thinking project management, because that was
Mhm.
really a lot of people were talking about it at the time. There are people in my organization who are getting their PMP designation. And I thought, yeah, that sounds like I would be good at those skills. I think I could really shine there doing that kind of job. And after I was in that role for about a month, I would say, um, we had one of those reorganizations, and I actually just got moved over into a product owner role. So my very first job working with IT, and basically being the kind of go between the new product manager and the IT delivery team. And unbeknownst to me at the time, writing user stories, doing the use cases, working up wireframes, defining the acceptance criteria, all of those things were part of my job. And I was learning on the job. So it was really a very hectic, crazy time for me in my career, because I was just learning so much, and it was all kind of confusing because it was IT related and it was new, and I was just, I was there doing the work, and I was spending a lot of time on the job too. So as fate would have it, we had another reorg like 2.5 years later, and I ended up in a product manager role. And what I learned about being a product manager is that there's kind of two different parts of the job, at least at my organization.
Mhm.
There was the kind of the detail oriented, getting into the solution kind of work, and there was the strategy and the vision for the product, and where do we want to go in the future kind of work. And after doing that for about a year, I just went to my boss and I said, this part over here is not for me. I really want to work on the details. I want to work on defining and explaining the business process, or the use case, or those are the things that I'm really much more interested in. Those are the things that I find myself spending more time on. And it worked out that they still wanted me to continue in that role, and the product manager, more strategic side of things, they found another person who could come in and fill that role.
Mhm.
Uh, so that is how I ended up being a senior business analyst. But when I took that role, I I didn't really know what a business analyst did. I thought that it was what I wanted to do because of it being kind of more in the weeds and deep, getting into details of things. And so I started going out looking for things I could learn. I did some LinkedIn learning, I did some YouTube videos and random things. And I came across, though, a couple of Laura's videos, and those were like a godsend. And so when I found out she had Bridging the Gap and that she had this whole program, oh man, it was like maybe 5 days before the deadline that I found out about, like the registration deadline, that I found out about the Blueprint program.
Mhm.
And so within a span of 5 days, I had to figure out, should I pay for this myself?
Mhm.
My employer will pay me if I pass, but am I willing to take that risk? And I was, because I just was so hungry for the knowledge, and um, and really just to build back my confidence of feeling good about the work I was doing and knowing that I was doing a good job. And I hadn't been getting that for quite some time before that. So um, that's how I got here.
That's how you got here. That's quite the journey. I have been reviewing things and I see that you did, you started kind of with account manager, you did some business relationship, I hear product owner, I hear product manager, or some project management, and you found your place with business analysis, and that is
Yeah.
awesome. And then you had an opportunity to do some different training with LinkedIn. You had a chance to do some YouTube, and then you stumbled upon the Bridging the Gap. So, what is it about the Bridging the Gap product that was different for you that made you make the decision to go for it?
So the first thing I purchased from Bridging the Gap was I can't remember the exact name, but it was a template packet. It was
Mhm.
like 8 or 9 different templates. And I was like, wow, this is like revolutionary idea to have just like this, what each of these things means, and you can fill it in and you can apply it to any project. It's like, wow. So that was the very first introduction to what kind of products Bridging the Gap was producing and putting out there. And the the there was also a manual that came along with that said, this is how you use each of these templates. And I was like, wow, maybe I need to learn some more about this.
Okay.
Um, and the the testimonials and the way that the program was structured, the fact that you can get you have homework, it's not just a test, you have homework, you have to present a project to an instructor, and they give you feedback. And I was like, yes, that's what I want. I want someone to tell me what I'm doing wrong. What am I doing right? Where can I improve? And so that was really the selling point for me, was just having, even though it wasn't a face-to-face dialogue, it was the feedback and the back and forth through the workbook assignments that really sold me on it.
Sweet. So it sounds like you started with the template bundle. There were some instructions there. You had an opportunity to see a little bit of the training and you decided, okay, I'm going to go for this. And still a little bit nervous about whether or not you were going to pass, but you did it. You took the plunge. And I really want to hear about your experience then. Once
Okay.
you went through those things and you went to the program, so you got some good feedback from the instructors. It sounds like the structure of the program worked for you. Let's hear a little bit more about what it was in the program that stood out for you.
Oh, wow. I think it was the cycle of assignments that really kept me engaged and going. It's been a long time since I've been in school, and I have a little ADHD. So, like focusing on one thing, like really focusing on one thing for a while is pretty easy, but then to get it to use that same amount of strength to focus on the second thing and the third thing and everything else, it took a little bit more effort. But the structure of the videos, the pre-recorded webinars,
Mhm.
or not webinars, the pre-recorded class sessions,
Mhm.
and then the live webinars with the instructors where they went, they just solidified the information that Laura did in her videos. So just the whole structure of that really kept me going, kept me engaged. The other people in the class, I kind of felt like I wanted to call them up and be like, "Hey, let's talk about these problems together." But there's not a platform in which to do that unless you brought it up to someone in a webinar.
All right. So you hold a certificate in product management and you moved on to do your certificate in applied business analysis, right? So I'd like to know a little bit about your feelings about the program. You started out with the template bundle and it answered some questions for you and you were hungrier for knowledge and you in a very short period found out about registering for the blueprint and decided to take that plunge. So I'd like to hear about your experience there and
Okay.
what stood out about that program for you.
Yeah. So the thing that really stood out for me and what I was really hoping to gain by going through the Blueprint program was to gain transferable skills that I could use on my current job, uh, as well as future jobs potentially. Um, and as well as just really feeling confident about the work I was doing, that it was, uh, that I knew if I was on the right track. Because up until that point, I didn't really have any colleagues that I could work with on business analysis. I didn't have a framework for it. And so understanding the differences between a use case and a business process, it seems pretty obvious now, but before I started the program, that was just like a different language for me. So the transferable skills and the confidence building is really what sold me on taking the program and really what kept me going throughout it because I was just learning so much as I was going through each workbook.
Nice. I love that you mentioned confidence. We hear that a lot, and feedback is really important. And let's face it, that's something that you don't always get when you're at your day-to-day work. And sometimes you wonder, geez, am I doing a good job or am I doing the right job? Especially when you're new
Yeah.
to it. You've done some things that were very transferable because you did account management and business relationship. You had this opportunity early on to build relationships with stakeholders.
Uh-huh.
Now you came to the program and you got an opportunity to see what stakeholders were and what to do with them. So tell me
Yes.
about your experience there. I want to know how you feel about those desired transferable skills when you realize, "Hey, I've already got some of these."
Right. Yes. It was really eye-opening in that way too, because the working with stakeholders and digging to the root of a problem and determining what the business objectives are and, understanding the inputs into the process and the different users who are going to go through. Those were all things that I had done, but I didn't know that I did. So it was really eye opening. That has given me a lot of confidence too, and I can look back on some of my previous work and have kind of two different thoughts. The one thought is, I didn't know what I was doing, but I did work that mattered, and I probably didn't go about it the easiest way or the fastest way, but I got it done, and this is what we produced. And the second way is to say, oh, when I did uh, XYZ feature and we were having these discussions, I should have brought the stakeholders in from the business to have this conversation with, our delivery team so that I could help connect the dots in a meeting instead of trying to translate from this side to this side and then just have things get lost in translation, which often happens.
Yeah. So you gained some techniques through the program, right? So having these meetings where you can bring everybody to the table and get it all out there, that's awesome. So one of the big things about the program is the structure and trying to get you organized, right? So you have that framework in place where you learn about, here are the steps that you could take. And some of them are iterative, but here are the steps you can take to get organized and get off in a good path. And you realize you've already got some of those skills, right? You already know, you're already talking to stakeholders. You're already getting down to the nitty gritty, right? Those details that you like to get into. Well, now you can be more organized about it. And that is super awesome. So I'm glad that that was kind of a dawn of realization for you. And you were able to say, hey, I've already got this skill. Now I can organize myself and really hit the ground running. Whole new business analysis thing, senior business analyst thing, right? Awesome. All right. So we talked about some feedback and that you were getting from instructors. And one of the things I saw was your mention about the structure of the feedback and then building confidence, right? So what outcome have you had professionally or personally now that you've gained that confidence? Is there anything that you'd like to share about that?
I think that probably because it pushed me outside of my comfort zone. Like the first big comfort zone step was posting the certificate on LinkedIn and, tagging the people who I felt were really instrumental in helping me through the program and bridging the gap as an organization and putting it out there for the world to see, and all of my professional connections, people who I told I was doing the program, people that I didn't ever come up in conversation, people that I worked with at previous roles that, you know, 15 years ago, people that I worked with, and having them congratulate me, that felt really, really good. But I was very scared to hit the post button on that because it's just not a thing that I do normally.
Do it again? Given the
Yeah,
feedback that you
absolutely. Absolutely, I would. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
fantastic. Is there anything else you'd like to share? Is there any particular module in the Blueprint program that stood out for you, or anything else you'd like to share?
I talked to so many people at my job, my manager at the time in particular, about how much I was learning as I was going through. I remember after the first workbook, I told her, I was like, if I learn as much from the next 3 assignments that I did from the first one, I'm really going to be out there kicking butt, because I just felt like with it, there was so much that like the pieces were coming together and things were making so much more sense. And like you said, that putting it into a framework and an organizational or in an organized way has really helped take a lot of stress out of my day to day, because that's one area where I always really struggled in all of my roles with, like, how do I structure my day, and what do I do, and how do I go about getting the work done, and having the framework or the blueprint for the business and analysis work. It's it's really just helped me just really feel much better on the job.
Sweet. All right. So this is your opportunity. Is there anything you'd like to share with anybody out there who's thinking about the blueprint or thinking about further training? Is there anything you would like to share with them? Any tips you'd like to give to them?
Sure. So, think that there are many reasons to do this um, program, and everybody has their own reasons depending on their situation. But I think going back to the feedback and the confidence that you get from having the feedback and knowing if you're on the right track, or just even knowing areas where you can improve, that is so valuable. And the feedback is kind of evergreen too, in a sense that, like, I've gone back to a couple different workbook assignments where I knew you told me something that was really important and helpful, that I needed to hear that again for a project that I was working on at work. So there are so many ways, so many little ways and so many big ways that this program can help people with their business analysis career.
Awesome. Thank you for that. First of all, it's always nice to hear that, and that aha moment. It's great to see it. We have these instructor hours. We have the big webinars where we break down what we're going to do for each module.
Mhm.
Instructor hours where we get to have that one-on-one, and the participants have an opportunity to talk with other participants, and the synergy that builds from that feels really good from the instructor end. It's really, really nice to hear from our participants that those opportunities to connect, not just with the instructors, but also with each other, gives them builds confidence. And then further, once you've submitted your applied learning, right? It's not a test. You're applying what you're learning, doing these projects, and you get the feedback. It's really pleasant to hear that you are still referring to that and that it still helps you to move forward. So
Yeah.
thank you
Yes.
for
Thank
pointing
you.
that out. I want to say thank you for talking with me today, taking the time to do this and agreeing to meet with us and sharing your experience is very valuable for anybody that might be considering to do this. And just hearing about your success, I've seen some of it on LinkedIn, and I'm kind of celebrating. I'm your little cheerleader over here.
Yeah.
You were so great during the program, and it was great to talk to you today. So thank you so much for speaking with me. Okay.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you for the opportunity.